Welcome to Books Podcast. Join us for quick, insightful book reviews and summaries that inspire and inform. Don't forget to subscribe and never miss an episode. Ready to dive into Callie Hart's Quicksilver?
Let's go.
All right. We're talking fantasy romance, alchemy, and a world that's as brutal as it is beautiful.
Yeah.
This one is full of twists, so let's dive right in.
What really makes Quicksilver stand out is that it's so much more than just like your average fantasy romance.
Okay.
The story unfolds across two really starkly contrasting worlds.
Oh, interesting.
I think that's a great place to start. On the one hand, you have Zilvaren, a scorching desert,
Right.
where survival is, a daily struggle.
Yeah.
And then there's Yvelia,
Okay.
a mystical land inhabited by the Fae,
Oh, cool.
where beauty and danger are just completely intertwined.
That contrast is intriguing.
Yeah.
How does that play into the story beyond just setting the scene?
It's not just about the external landscape, It's a reflection of the internal struggles of the characters. They're constantly navigating between these two extremes.
Right.
And that tension just fuels so much of the conflict.
I see.
And speaking of characters, we can't talk about Quicksilver without mentioning Saeris Fane.
Now she sounds like an interesting character. Fill me in on what makes her tick.
Saeris is our protagonist, a 24-year-old thief
Okay.
who we meet in Zilvaren.
Right.
But she's far from your typical chosen one archetype. What makes her so compelling is that she's gritty and resourceful,
Yeah.
a survivor who's carved out a life for herself in a really harsh environment.
I mean, what do you think that says about Hart's approach to character development? It seems like she's deliberately subverting expectations.
Absolutely. Hart gives us a heroine who's flawed and relatable.
Yeah.
Someone who's driven by her circumstances rather than some grand prophecy.
Right.
It makes her journey all the more captivating because we're not sure what she's capable of or where she'll end up. And her unique ability to manipulate metal further sets her apart.
Oh, wow.
She's not just any thief.
Right.
There's this hidden power within her, and that becomes central to the plot.
It almost sounds like her ability to manipulate metal could be a metaphor for her own character.
Yeah.
She's shaping and adapting to survive, just like she shapes the metal.
That's a great observation. There's definitely a connection there. And that power is what ultimately draws her into the Fae realm of Yvelia.
Okay.
She's ripped from her familiar world and thrust into this place of both wonder and peril.
So we have this compelling protagonist.
Yeah.
A clash of worlds.
Right.
And of course, no fantasy romance is complete without a bit of, romance.
Of course.
Tell me about the other half of this equation.
Okay.
Who does Saeris encounter in Yvelia?
She meets Kingfisher.
Edgar.
A stoic Fae warrior who, like Saeris, is shrouded in mystery. There's an immediate attraction between them, but it's definitely a slow burn romance.
Oh, okay.
It's all about simmering tension and stolen glances at first.
The slow burn. Why do you think Hart chose to go that route with their relationship?
For one, it allows the relationship to develop organically amidst the chaos and uncertainty of their situation. Saeris and Kingfisher don't have the luxury of falling head over heels in love.
Right.
They're constantly on guard, trying to survive and trying to figure each other out.
Okay.
But that slow burn also creates a sense of anticipation.
Yeah.
We as readers are invested in seeing how their connection will evolve and if they'll ultimately overcome the obstacles in their way.
Right. It becomes almost as intriguing as the main plot.
Yeah.
You're waiting for that tension to break.
Exactly.
But it's not just Saeris and Kingfisher, right? We've got a whole cast of Fae characters to contend with.
Yes.
Including this intriguing Undying Queen.
Yes. And the Fae are anything but predictable.
Okay.
They're not neatly divided into good and evil. Their loyalties are constantly shifting, and you're never quite sure who to trust.
Oh, wow.
It keeps you guessing throughout the story.
That sounds like my kind of fantasy world. Morally complex characters always make things more interesting.
Sure.
And speaking of interesting, we have to talk about the element that gives the book its name, Quicksilver.
Yes.
What can you tell us about that?
Quicksilver is far more than just a cool name for a fantasy element.
Okay.
It's the key to the magic system in this world and a metaphor for the internal struggles of the characters.
Right.
It's this volatile, sentient substance that can be used for incredible feats of creation and transformation, but it's also incredibly dangerous and unpredictable.
So magic in this world isn't just a matter of waving a wand.
Mhm.
There are real consequences to wielding this power.
Exactly. It reminds me of like the real world history of alchemy,
Okay.
where practitioners were always trying to find the balance between harnessing power and avoiding its destructive potential. And that's something that the characters in Quicksilver grapple with constantly.
That's fascinating. It sounds like Hart has woven a lot of layers into this seemingly simple element. It's not just magic. It's a reflection of the human relationship with power itself.
Yeah, definitely. And it's that unpredictability that makes Quicksilver such a compelling force in the story.
Right.
It's not just a tool for the characters to use.
Yeah.
It kind of has a mind of its own,
Oh,
which adds like a whole other level of complexity to the narrative.
Right.
Yeah.
It's almost like another character, wouldn't you say?
Totally.
One that constantly pushes the other characters to their limits.
Yeah.
And forces them to kind of confront the consequences of their actions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's through this interaction with Quicksilver
Okay.
that we see the characters truly tested.
Mhm.
They have to make difficult choices, often with imperfect information.
Yeah.
And those choices have a ripple effect on the world around them.
It really highlights that tension between the beauty and brutality we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Quicksilver has the potential to create and destroy.
Right.
And the characters are kind of caught in the middle of that struggle.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this brings us back to the heart of the story. Saeris and Kingfisher,
Okay.
their relationship isn't just like a romantic subplot.
Right.
It's deeply intertwined with the themes of the book.
Mm-hmm.
They each have their own connection to Quicksilver, their own way of wielding its power,
Yeah.
and that becomes a point of both connection and conflict between them.
That makes their slow burn romance even more intriguing.
Right.
They're not just navigating their feelings for each other. They're also navigating this powerful force that could either bring them together or tear them apart.
It's a delicate dance,
Yeah.
and Hart does a masterful job of building that tension.
Right.
You're constantly wondering if they'll succumb to the allure of Quicksilver or find a way to balance its power with their own desires.
It's almost like a metaphor for any relationship, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Finding that balance
Yeah.
between individual needs and the needs of the partnership.
That's a really insightful connection.
Thanks.
And it's one of the things that makes Quicksilver so compelling.
Mhm.
It operates on multiple levels,
Right.
blending fantasy and romance with these deeper questions about human nature and the choices we make.
Speaking of choices, we briefly touched on the Undying Queen and the other Fae characters earlier.
Right.
Can you elaborate on their role in the story? They seem to be a constant source of intrigue and uncertainty.
The Fae are essentially the gatekeepers of Yvelia and Quicksilver.
Okay.
They have a deep understanding of its power and the consequences of its misuse,
Right.
but they're not a monolithic group.
Okay.
They have their own internal conflicts, their own agendas,
Right.
and that creates a constant sense of unease for Saeris as she tries to navigate their world.
That's what I love about a good fantasy world.
Yeah.
You can never fully trust anyone.
Right.
Even those who appear to be on your side.
Exactly.
It keeps you on the edge of your seat.
It's like a game of chess where the rules are constantly changing.
Ooh, I like that.
And the Undying Queen is the ultimate wild card.
Okay.
Her motivations are shrouded in mystery, and her power is undeniable.
Right.
She represents a force that Saeris can't control,
Yeah.
which adds another layer of tension to the story.
So we have these intricate relationships, this unpredictable magic system,
Yeah.
and this looming presence of the Undying Queen.
Right.
Where does all of this lead?
Well,
What kind of tone does Hart set as the story progresses?
while there are moments of humor and lightheartedness, especially in the banter between Saeris and Kingfisher, the overall tone of the book is one of mounting tension and a sense of impending doom.
Okay.
You get the feeling that something big is coming,
Right.
that the stakes are constantly being raised, and that not everyone will make it out unscathed.
That blend of romance and looming darkness really adds to the intrigue.
For sure.
You're invested in the character's happiness,
Yeah.
but you're also aware that their world could come crashing down at any moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you want to keep reading. You're both hopeful and apprehensive,
Right.
and you have to find out how it all resolves.
Now that we've delved into the intricacies of the plot and characters,
Okay.
I want to circle back to Hart's writing style.
Yeah.
We touched on it briefly earlier,
Right.
but can you elaborate on what makes her prose so evocative?
Hart has a gift for creating like, vivid imagery with her words.
Okay.
She paints a picture of both the harsh beauty of Zilvaren and the ethereal magic of Yvelia.
Okay.
But she also excels at conveying the inner turmoil of her characters.
Right.
You feel their anxieties, their desires, their struggles, all through the nuances of her language.
It's not just telling the story.
Right.
It's making the reader feel the story.
Exactly.
That's where true artistry comes in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what elevates Quicksilver beyond like a typical genre read.
Good.
Hart has crafted a story that's both entertaining and thought-provoking. It pulls you in with its romance and fantasy elements, but it also stays with you long after you finish reading.
She's managed to strike that balance between appealing to a broad audience and offering something deeper for those who are looking for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's no easy feat.
Now that we've explored the world,
Right.
the characters, and the magic system,
Yeah.
I'm eager to hear your thoughts on the ending.
Okay.
But before we delve into that, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the pacing of the book.
Okay.
Some reviewers have mentioned that it can be uneven at times.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that? I can see how the pacing might throw some readers off. Fantasy worlds, especially those with complex magic systems, often require a bit more exposition. But as someone who's clearly spent some time with Quicksilver, do you think those slower sections ultimately detract from the overall experience?
Not at all. In fact, I think those moments of slower pacing actually enhance the reading experience.
Okay.
They give us time to breathe, to absorb the intricacies of the world, and to really delve into the characters' inner lives. It's like pausing to savor a particularly beautiful view before continuing on a journey.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It's not always about rushing to the destination.
Yes,
it's about appreciating the journey itself.
Yeah.
But of course, every journey has an end, and I'm dying to know how Hart wraps things up in Quicksilver.
Right.
Without giving too much away, can you tease what readers can expect as the story reaches its climax?
The ending is a whirlwind of emotions and a culmination of everything we've been discussing. All the threads, Saeris and Kingfisher's relationship, the conflict with the Fae, the unpredictable nature of Quicksilver, they all converge in this spectacular showdown.
Right.
Hart doesn't shy away from high stakes, and she masterfully subverts expectations.
Right.
Characters you thought were safe might not be.
Oh.
And alliances shift in surprising ways.
Okay, you've definitely piqued my curiosity. But does it feel satisfying?
Yeah.
Does it leave readers with a sense of closure, or is it more of a cliffhanger?
That's the beauty of it. It's both satisfying and thought-provoking.
Okay.
The main conflict is resolved, but Hart cleverly leaves certain questions unanswered, hinting at a larger story that's yet to unfold.
Okay.
It's not like a frustrating cliffhanger,
Right.
but rather an invitation to delve deeper into this world and its mysteries.
Ooh, that's a relief. I hate when authors use cliffhangers just to manipulate readers, but a well-placed bit of mystery can definitely keep you hooked. Speaking of mysteries, can you give us a hint about where things stand for Saeris and Kingfisher at the end? No spoilers, of course.
Let's just say that their relationship is tested to its absolute limit.
Okay.
They face challenges that force them to confront their deepest fears and make impossible choices.
Right.
Their bond is forged in fire, and it's stronger than ever.
Yeah.
But the future remains uncertain.
It sounds like their slow burn romance really pays off in the end.
Yeah.
The emotional payoff is all the more intense because of the challenges they've overcome together.
I agree.
But it's not just their story, is it? The fate of Zilvaren and Yvelia hangs in the balance. And the power of Quicksilver is still very much in play.
Exactly. Hart leaves us with a sense that the story is far from over.
Okay.
The battle might be won, but the war continues. The characters and the readers are left to grapple with the implications of what has transpired and what the future holds.
That sounds like the perfect ending for a book like Quicksilver.
I think so.
It offers closure while still leaving you wanting more.
Yeah.
It's both an ending and a beginning.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
So for our listeners who are now eager to dive into Quicksilver, what would you say are the key takeaways? What kind of reader do you think would most enjoy this book?
If you're a fan of fantasy romances, especially those with strong female leads, complex world building, and a touch of darkness, then Quicksilver is definitely for you. But it's also a book that will appeal to anyone who enjoys stories that challenge conventions and delve into the complexities of human nature.
It sounds like it has something to offer a wide range of readers, from seasoned fantasy fans to those who are new to the genre.
I think so. It's a book that stays with you long after you've finished reading, prompting you to reflect on the characters, the choices they made, and the world Hart has so brilliantly created.
It's been an absolute pleasure exploring Quicksilver with you today.
Yeah, likewise.
Thank you for sharing your insights and helping us unpack this captivating story.
The pleasure was all mine. It's always a joy to discuss a book that sparks such thoughtful conversation.
Thanks for listening to Books Podcast. Enjoyed this episode? Subscribe and share with fellow book lovers. Got a book suggestion? Let us know. Happy reading.